just let me know. Now the last step in this whole process is to put your whole seal retainer in. Now when you put this in, you don't want to force it. Just let it go in there and just lightly apply pressure, and eventually it will snap into place. And there you have it. Your entire manifold is rebuilt. I'm going to clean up these edges a little bit before I put it back on. I'm also going to lube this up before I put it back on. That way that it doesn't there's not a lot of friction on the cylinders where there usually isn't on the ceramic plungers. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay guys, I'm at the last step of the job. My plungers are clean, my pump is repacked, and I'm ready to put my head back on. This is one of the hardest parts of the job. It can be anyway. I've had it be hard. One thing I forgot to tell you about when you're disassembling your pump and inspecting your plungers for cracks, you also want to check to make sure that the plungers aren't loose coming in and out. And if you do have to replace one of these plungers, you want to make sure that this bolt is not real long. I mean, it's probably an inch long. It goes in there. You want to make sure you use Loctite. Loctite is really important on those because you do not want those coming out, because that can blow a hole in your head, and that would be a bad day. So I've cleaned these plungers. I've inspected them before I put them back on. Before I put the head back on, I am going to lube them up. So I'm going to do that now and then put the head back on, and you guys get to watch. So here we go. Got my cap full of oil that I just spilled. I'm going to put some on each plunger. You don't have to be terribly liberal with it, but I am. This is something that comes from years and years of mechanicking, rebuilding hydraulic jacks and things like that, like the handoff. And here we go. Alrighty, that's not the right way to reach. Alright, there we go. Alright, so put that bad boy on. Alright. Oh, shit. Alright, that third plunger's now been engaged, so it's gonna be a little tougher. Alright, look at that. And not quite all the way on yet, but there it is, locked into place. So there you go. Alright guys, so I am just about done here with the pump head. One thing I do want to point out with doing this stuff, this maintenance, General Pump, especially if you're working on General Pump, go to General Pump's website. They have drawings and breakdown of all this stuff in case you get lost, or let's say you yard sale all your parts and you have no idea how to put them together. General Pump has a great site. All you got to do is search your model number and it'll come up, and it has everything you need, to include torque specs. I have a torque wrench here. This pump's going to make me hundreds of thousands of dollars. It already has. I want to take especially good care of it. So if you don't have a torque wrench, go borrow one from AutoZone and do the torque values, because you over torque these, or you under torque them, or don't torque them properly, or in an even amount, you can do damage. And why even take the risk on something like this? A lot of people would say, why work on it yourself? Well, which for you, those of you that don't, I understand, I get it. But if you do work on your stuff yourself and it does call for a torque value, torque it correctly. These head bolts are rated for 22.1 foot-pounds. I do have an extension, and I don't know how much you guys know about mechanics, but extensions do increase the torque value. So I'm going with 22.5, and I'm going to torque them in a star fashion. So what that means is I'm going to start on the corners and work my way in. And you guys have done head work, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about on a car. So I'm going to put my thing on there, and I'm going to torque it as soon as it gets... Alright, and then I'm going to come down here to this one, this bottom right one. Oh, that's awesome. 1, 2, 3, okay. And then I'm going to move over to this one and do it in that fashion. Alright, so I won't keep you guys, but that's what I'm going to do. Make sure you torque your stuff if it calls for a torque. Alright, so now our head is torqued evenly and completely. Next thing and last thing that we're going to do is we're going to replace the check valves. Now, you don't necessarily have to change the check valves. An inspection is enough, but Russ sent me the package, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. But one thing to note here, if you do replace your check valves, take a look at them. If they're in good shape, keep them, because a lot of times if you get an overheat condition or you get an overpressurization condition that blows your pump, all of your check valves might not be bad. So if that happens again and you're in the field and you're like, crap, I'm getting pulsating. Pulsating is or loss of pressure, like a serious loss of pressure. Pull those check valve caps off and check them. You might just have one bad. You got one in the kit, in the truck, in the kit. Throw it in and you're good to go, at least until you get home to and get some time to do this or take it to your service provider to get it done. So, but one more thing before we do that is I want to show you a little tool here. This is a digital micrometer, and this is important because I'm not sure what size these caps are. And if you've got bolts, or especially hoses, a lot of times like this here, I went ahead and measured this to see what size this was, and you see 0.73, so it's a 3/4 inch inlet. I knew that, but obviously if you don't know that, but if you don't know the size of these caps, go ahead and mic them or use this thing and see. It says 1.19. You're like, what? Well, that doesn't really. So I'm gonna switch it over to millimeter. All right. And it is a 30 millimeter socket. Now I have a 30 mil socket, but if you don't have one, you can, again, go to an auto parts store and they will loan you that stuff. And so if you don't have some of this stuff, you don't have to go buy it. It's not a bad idea to have. Mine's in the truck just because of what I just told you about. But if you don't have one, pick one up. I think you can get one probably at Harbor Freight for dollars, just a few dollars. So not a bad thing to have on the truck in case anything like that does happen. So we're gonna pull those off and I'm gonna show you what they look like inside. I got one pulled off. Sorry, battery notification. Anyway, I got one pulled off. One thing to note, there's my 30 mil socket there. Do not try to take these off with adjustable pliers or a 30 mil wrench unless it is a box end, which is the round side. Do not try to take these off with adjustable pliers. They're torqued to, I believe, 50 or 60 foot-pounds. You're not going to get them off with an adjustable wrench. You're going to roll these sides and then you're not even be able to get a socket on there. And you have to take a file and file this down. It's soft metal. It's just, don't even do it. So, got the cap off. They do come with O-rings. My battery is dying, so I am gonna have to wrap this up. They do come with the O-rings. The kit is right here. Obviously it comes with 6 check valves, and as you see the O-rings inside, they are in there. This is what the check valve looks like. I use a little pair of 90-degree needle nose. Oh, yeah, I can switch hands. I'm a righty. Anyway, you're gonna grab a hold of that bad boy and wrestle her loose and pull her out, and that's what she looks like, and that's it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this check valve. There's probably nothing wrong with any of them, but I'm going to replace them anyway and keep these in a baggie in my truck. Okay, so surprise, surprise, I made a mistake. The check valves, these O-rings that come with the check valve kit, I'm going to show you right here. These do not go on the caps. These go at the bottom of the check valve galley or barrel down here. And you do have to put those on. The ones that were in there were in pretty good shape. As I said, this pump is not terribly old or has a ton of hours on it, but I am going to replace them anyway. But this O-ring goes at the bottom of this check valve barrel like this, and you just go ahead and seat that down in there, and then go ahead and take your check valve and set that in there, and again wiggle it around and pops right into place. Yeah. You can lube those as well, but you really don't need to because it's pretty wet down there. But you do want to make sure that you get your check valve all the way down and seated, because if you don't, this cap will push it down and it'll probably bend it, break it, do something you don't want it to it. So yeah, mistake there on my part, but it does go down in there and it seats in real snug. So make sure you don't forget that. And again, I caught that when I looked at these O-rings and saw they were way too small to go on the caps. So the cap O-rings are in pretty good shape. So I was like, that must go on the bottom of the thing. So that's what I did. So anyway, thanks for watching again, guys. I'm just about wrapped up here. We're going to dual feed our pump, start it up, check it out. And I'll let you guys know if anything bad happens. So thanks for watching. Okay, so it's day 2. We have finished our entire project. Everything's in correctly. Oil serviced again. I actually went and did a job this morning. It is Sunday. I did finish the dual feed here with this here spa hose. That had an extra section of that, so we went ahead and ran that around to here. This hose here is extremely difficult to get around these hose bars. What I do is I heat it up. I either use boiling water. This time I used a heat gun, and that actually worked a little bit better. For those of you who think you need a hose clamp on this, you really don't. I've never had a problem with this hose leaking. As you can see there is a little bit of water. I don't know if you can see this, but there is a little bit of water and air soaking up to about the second barb, but there's 4 more barbs on that hose barb that it can't get past. So I don't think it's really an issue, but for safety, I do have hose clamps. I am going to put hose clamps on all these, and I would recommend you do the same. I don't think it's really necessary, but definitely do it. Now, one last point, then I'll wrap this up. When you're servicing your oil on your pump, General Pump says that this takes 40.6 ounces of oil. I couldn't get any more than about 32 in, and I double checked on the site. The dipstick here, full, is obviously to the top of your thing here. But to check full, you do not screw it down. It goes from where you stick it in, from where it hits the threads, and you pull it out. And as you can see, I'm right there, right at the top of that that cutout there, and that's exactly where I want to be. And then also too, if you have a General Pump, and I think ARs have this too, there's a vent cap on this. It's yellow on these Generals. Mine is gone. Mine was gone, and I didn't notice that before I started working. But when I started putting this back together, I noticed it was gone. That's important. If you lose that yellow cap, that's important because there's a vent in here. Now it does vent to the inside of the cap. The cap is vented along here on the inside. So what I did was I took a small piece of plastic and I cut it out the same shape as the dipstick here, and I glued it on here so that no water could get in there, because you don't want any water to get in there because it literally will go right into your pump. And if you have milky oil, that's one indication that your pump is actually bypassing water through your pistons. So that's one of the main reasons. That's why I rebuilt my last one. This one here, as I said, was just because I was getting a lot of hammering, a little bit of pulsating, and that's why I did that. So everything's done, everything's wrapped up. Last time, if you guys have any comments, concerns, questions, but more importantly corrections to anything I've done, I know I've contradicted myself a few times in this video. As I said, it's been about 6 years since I've done this. This pump has been extremely reliable. I did have to rebuild it a little early. It worked like a champ today. I also put some new 2-wire hose from Russ Johnson on here. Awesome hose, really heavy. I'm gonna get a good workout from it, but I really like it. I was using this Legacy hose, which does not hold up. This is also 2-wire hose. I paid about $100 more for this stuff than I did for this stuff from Russ, and this stuff just did not hold up. It shredded very quickly. So that's what I'm using now. Mossmatic hose reel swivels, you cannot beat these. Everything on this entire setup, this entire cold water rig, these have stood the test of time for all that stuff. My injectors, obviously injectors, but the hoses, the hose reels, I've put this on 3 different hose reels and I haven't had to touch it. And I have another one on this other one here too. They are awesome. If you can find them, get them. They're definitely better than Super Swivel and better than anything that comes on those. My belt shroud here is in works by my Metals Tech guys. This belt is extra long. I won't go into why, but if you guys ever want to know why, just ask me, I'll tell you. It has to do with when I originally started my company. So anyway, that's it, guys. Andrew Tice here. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Bye.